everyone, and good day. Today, our group will analyze space exploration through the lens of science, technology, and society. This is Sedi Sivulante. This is Mark Justin Leiva.
I am Princess Nicole Mape.
And this is Charis Kyle Perez.
When we look back at the historical origins of this field, it was mostly a closed government affair, right? Historically, the story of space began with the mid 20th century space race, a highly political era driven exclusively by state funded military and political rivalry between global superpowers.
But that state-only chapter is completely closed now. Janice, how would you describe the transition into the modern era?
We have shifted into a completely new chapter. The institutional control of space technology has decentralized, moving away from being exclusive to government agencies like NASA or Roscosmos. I wouldn't say define postmodern STS literature explicitly categorizes this shift.
This contemporary era is what academics call Space 2.0. The core issue we are tackling is the widespread privatization and commercialization of the cosmos. Today, private corporations such as SpaceX, Blue Origin, and a vast network of venture backed firms are leading launch operations, satellite deployments, and exploratory design. This means that scientific priorities are no longer dictated solely by public policy or purely scientific curiosity. Instead, they are increasingly governed by market forces, commercial profitability, and corporate interests. This shifts space exploration from a global public good into a highly competitive, privatized economic market. This commercial shift has outpaced our social and legal frameworks, creating a central social conflict. How does a global society justify spending hundreds of billions of dollars on a long term extraterrestrial advancement when our primary planet is suffering from immediate acute socio-economic crises like climate change, poverty, resource depletion, and infrastructure collapse?
And this tension is exactly what our presentation will unpack today. But to truly evaluate this issue, we must first look at the actual physics and technology making this space age possible.
When we talk about the science of space, it is easy to get lost in the science fiction, but it is grounded in strict physical limitations.
Right. For instance, once human beings enter space, the primary challenge shifts directly to human biology. Long duration space flights exposes astronauts to dangerous space radiation and zero gravity, which cause rapid bone loss and muscle weakness.
And engineers have to build advanced closed loop life support systems just to keep them alive. But Leva, what is the core physics breakdown of actually getting them off the ground?
From a mechanical standpoint, escaping Earth's gravitational well relies entirely on the principles of orbital mechanics and chemical propulsion. To overcome gravity and establish a stable orbit, a launch vehicle must achieve an escape velocity of approximately 11.2 kilometers per second. Historically, this required multi-stage, expendable rockets where millions of dollars of hardware were discarded into the ocean after a single launch, making space travel economically unsustainable. However, the defining technological breakthrough of this decade is the engineering of reusable launch vehicles. By designing rocket boosters that can automatically land back on Earth, the commercial sector has cut launch costs by nearly 90%. This technological disruption yields significant spin off technologies, meaning innovations engineered for space that directly benefit society on Earth. So for example, the highly advanced water purification membranes engineered to recycle sweat and wastewater on the International Space Station have been directly modified to provide clean drinking water to remote and drought-stricken communities across the globe.
While those technological spin-offs are beneficial, an STS perspective requires us to look at the negative consequences. The story of space exploration isn't risk-free.
True. On the other hand, it drives global scientific collaboration and inspires human curiosity. But on the other hand, we are creating severe environmental damage outside our atmosphere.
Princess, you've looked closely at the data on orbital tracking. What are the specific risks we are facing right now?
The societal implications involve severe environmental and legal risks. Right now, millions of pieces of man-made junk orbit Earth at extreme speeds. This poses the risk of the Kessler syndrome, a scenario where cascading collisions render low Earth orbit completely unusable, destroying the satellite networks our society relies on for communication and navigation. Furthermore, we are operating in a dangerous legal gap. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967 states that space belongs to all mankind and strictly prohibits sovereign nations from claiming ownership over celestial bodies. However, this treaty was written decades before the rise of private mega corporations. It contains no enforceable mechanisms or regulatory laws regarding commercial asteroid mining, lunar resource extraction, or private property rights. This creates a legal vacuum where corporate exploitation could go unchecked, and we risk porting Earth's history of colonial exploitation, corporate monopolies, and structural inequalities into the cosmos.
Exactly. Spending billions of dollars on missions to Mars creates intense social friction when contrasted with unresolved environmental and economic crises right here.
This brings us to our group's critical analysis. How do we bridge the gap between technological advancement and societal responsibility? It comes down to how we view space. Is it an endless frontier for corporate profit or something else? Jaris, how does our group define our standpoint based on our STS analysis?
From an STS perspective, technology cannot be separated from the economic and political systems that fund it. Our group argues that low Earth orbit must be treated as a shared global resource, a finite, vulnerable environment that requires strict international regulations, rather than an unmonitored commercial zone. The unmonitored commercialization of space is an unsustainable path that treats orbit as an exploit zone rather than a vulnerable environment. If we allow private entities to launch tens of thousands of mega constellation satellites without strict regulations, we are prioritizing short-term corporate profit over long-term safety of global communication. Technological progress brings unequivocal ethics, and international law is fundamentally dangerous. We must learn from our historical mistakes on Earth, where we failed to regulate industrial carbon emissions until climate change became an existential threat.
Finishing this off, our group presents two primary, actionable policy recommendations to ensure a sustainable future for space exploration.
First, we call for enforceable debris mitigation protocols. International regulatory bodies must mandate strict disposal or deorbiting procedures for all commercial and government satellites to keep our orbit clean.
Second, we recommend the modernization of international space law through United Nations to establish clear, fair rules for resource distribution, ensuring that commercial gains from space help fund sustainable development and climate relief initiatives on Earth.
To wrap up, science and technology gives us the physical capability to reach the stars. But looking up at the infinite possibilities should never make us forget our profound responsibilities to the planet we leave behind.
Once again, this is Sedi, Mark Justin, Princess, and Charis with the topic issue Space Exploration. Thank you for listening.